Hello gamers, it's me, Velosofy, back to do a new video. This video I wanted to do a video response to Happy Console Gamer in regards to video game collecting and how it's impacted me and how YouTube has played a role and what kind of role has it played, negative, positive, good, bad. I started my channel back in 2012 and it was shortly after some influence by a couple of Twitter buddies back in 2012 on Twitter, and I was on the UK blogs and stuff like that. Didn't even know that I was in there, and a couple people that I met up with, we were just chopping it up, talking about video games, and it sparked my interest. They were like, hey, have you heard of this game? And then I would start naming all the games that I played and what, where I was at that time in my life and how it played a role and influence on me and affected me. And there was a small body of community of YouTubers out there at that time. So one of my buddies, he recommended, he's like, or suggested, I should say, he said, you should start your own channel. And I didn't have the equipment back then, and I didn't really have recording material to work with, and didn't know how to be in front of a camera or talk and all that without being nervous or jittery or whatever. But slowly but surely I got into it and found my way. And that first year in 2012 was when I started collecting, and I bought, I'll say, somewhere between 300 to 400 games, partly because a lot of the consoles I picked up had a bulk of games with it. Like when I got the 2012, I got the Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis. So the Nintendo came with 2 games. Super Nintendo came with like 9 to 10 games. The Sega Genesis came with 25 games. I think I even had the PS2 that came with like 50 games. So my game count started adding up. And mind you, I already had the 360 and the PS3 at the time. But I was watching channels, and I knew that the trend at the time was finding games out in the wild, picking it up, and talking about it. And that's what I did. I would give my reports about video games that I picked up, and that took off to the point where about 3 years later, I had about 700 to 800 games, and my shelves was full. I had about 12 to 13 consoles. I mean, it was the prime. My highest peak, I think I had the PS1, the PS2 and the 3, the original Xbox, Xbox 360, Dreamcast, GameCube, TurboGrafx 16, with a Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, Retron 5. I think the Retron 5 was out at that time. I can't remember. But I had a lot of Dreamcast. I had a lot of systems out at that time, and my shelves were full. My consoles were full. But then when we started to move, I started to ask myself, and even my wife asked me. She respected my collection. That was always been a thing. But my game collecting evolved over time. And the first time, I think it was 2015, 2014, I got rid of about 200 games. And it was just me kind of going through, cleaning out the collection, looking at what I really wanted to play. That became the thing. That was the first reason why I got rid of games. What I wanted to play and what I wanted to keep versus what I wanted to get rid of versus what hadn't been played. Then the next time I got rid of like 100 more games, and I think I did it to get a system. I think I moved up to get I think at the time I moved up to get the PS4. I can't remember. So I got rid of a big bulk of games. And then the next time I did it again, I think I was just getting rid of games to get credit, because I was like, man, this is just too many. And my mind was starting to overwhelm itself because I think about stuff a little too much. And then recently, I got rid of probably about 50 to 60 games for the Switch. And what happened for me over the last 2 years, I said, reason why I was getting rid of stuff was because the time before I just got rid of like a big bulk of stuff. It was because it was a bunch of carts. And I said to myself, I personally in my collection only wanted either digital, which I'm honestly not that big of a fan of. It is like at the bottom for me. But I wanted to get rid of the carts, and I only wanted the disc-based games, starting with like PS1 and was it PS1, PS2, and GameCube, and I mean those, you know, and Wii U. Those are as far as I go back, and I mean now, I got the Switch, so I don't know. I guess you consider that a cart-based game. So over the years, my video collecting has evolved, and I don't know if I'll ever go back as far as like the Atari, the NES, Super Nintendo, and Sega Genesis as far as the cart physically. But digitally, I do play emulators and stuff like that. So that's where my video game collecting is now. And it's been like this for almost 3 years now, where I'm just like, no more cartridges, just disc-based games. I do keep games as far as for collecting purposes and playability. Mine is more now towards playability because, much like Johnny, I've already reached the point of playing a lot of the retro games that I ever wanted to play. If I want to play them like right at the drop of a dime, I could just load it up on my original Xbox because it's been modded. But yeah, I don't have no other purposes other than that. But yeah, I love it. I love being able to look at these games, go back and just grab one off the shelf, fire up my console. Sundays is usually like my retro days, so I may go back, fire up the PS2 or the original Xbox or one of my older systems and just play games randomly. But other than that, I'm Life Spiller. Tell me how your life is as a gamer. I'm out.